Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of the Neowin podcast. I'm Rich Woods.
And I'm Jean Carrasqueira. And this week we got a lot of stuff going on because Computex.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff this week. How was your week this week? What did you
It
do?
was
New car yet?
well, no, I don't have my car yet. I had some trouble last week, and so I've been using my mom's old car that I have to push for it to start for some reason. It doesn't start ever.
Oh
So
God, that's almost worse than being on fire.
that's that's better, but still. Now I get my morning exercise, even if I don't want to.
Why don't you just walk? I mean, you got a bike or something?
I wish. No,
Yeah.
I have to make do.
You know what you need? You need a modern car, and a modern car requires a modern operating system. So
That was a great segue.
Microsoft's announcement at Computex this week. Um, it was what they usually do is they have a partner showcase event where they talk about all the other stuff that was announced from various OEMs. And when they did their announcement, they did that, and then they just said these modern devices require a modern OS, and they went through a whole list of things that a modern OS is and their vision for a modern OS. And they didn't mention Windows 10 once.
Well, we kind of knew that. Lenovo had hinted at that, but they also couldn't mention Windows 10 for their device, that foldable one. So
Yeah, right. So
everyone is afraid of Windows 10 now.
yeah, well, I mean, Lenovo said that it's not Windows 10, but it is Windows. We know it's coming. Windows Core OS or Lite, which is a version of Windows Core OS. Um, we know it's coming. There's no surprise. So what they said is they use the words enablers and delighters, which was ridiculous because delighters isn't even a word. But they said that modern OS is secure by default, meaning that the operating system and things like apps are separated, and that's not Windows 10 today. They said that updates are seamless and invisibly done in the background with no interruptions. That is also not
Not
Windows 10
no,
today.
not
Yeah.
at all.
I talk about seamless transitions from Wi-Fi to cellular. We kind of have that. They use the word multi-sense, talking about multiple methods of input like pen, voice, touch, gaze. They didn't say keyboard. Interestingly, um, form factor agility, which obviously is something that we have today with tablets and convertibles and laptops, and obviously there's more coming with the foldable devices and dual screen devices, which we'll talk more about later.
Uh, yeah, so that's a lot of stuff too.
Yeah. What's funny is that this is kind of what they promised with Windows 10. Do you remember when they first announced it and they promised seamless updates and because people hate updates.
Yeah, they do. I never quite agreed with that, but I understand how being interrupted by it can suck. It's just that I'm always updating anyways. Like I'm always checking for new builds in the Insider program, so
That's
it's
the thing. That's us.
yeah,
We're
exactly.
not the same as regular people. Regular people just want to use their PC and use the apps that they're using, because most people when they get an update, they're not using any of the new functionality. They don't care about a cumulative update and feature updates. It's why do I care about this?
Yeah, that's true. So uh, it's other companies have been making progress in that regard. Android has evolved its update
Oh,
system too.
Android's come such a long way, and because now you don't need a long reboot for that. You just reboot once and it just comes right back in, and then it finalizes the update then.
Exactly, and they're with Q. They're taking it even further. So they say they have these components, and you can just update that. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. We talked about that in when after Google I/O, I think.
Right. And then of course Chrome OS occasionally asks you for a reboot, and that takes less than a minute to reboot. Intel has their Project Athena thing, which is a spec for modern devices. So if this is the modern OS, that's the modern devices, and they're talking about things like waking up in less than a second, which is something that Intel PCs today cannot do. Um, so I mean, when they say modern OS, I took it to mean Windows Core OS as a whole. I know a lot of people took it to mean light, but Windows Core OS is what we're already seeing from Surface Hub 2X, HoloLens 2, and then of course is going to be a SKU called Lite, which is a version of Windows 10. Well, not Windows 10 for
Well, yeah,
yeah
you can't
for
say Windows 10. No,
no, you can't say Windows 10.
no.
I do wonder what they're going to call it. They could call it Modern OS, which would be kind of dumb, but it seems.
It's Microsoft.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It was just really weird how they did this, though. They really didn't communicate what they were doing, and they were supposed to announce it at Build, but they didn't. I was told by more than one person that they were going to announce at least Windows Core OS at Build, and because they have a HoloLens 2 is a shipping product. If it's not shipping, it's shipping soon. And that's using this new operating system. You could run the emulator right now and check it out. And they haven't announced it. If you ask them about Windows Core OS, they'll say, I don't know what that is.
it's so weird. The Microsoft's communication in general is just garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. But,
But
that's job security. It's,
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it was so weird how they did this. Like, if they're talking about, obviously they're not making promises that this is what Windows Core OS is going to be. It was phrased more that this is their vision for what it should be, and I think that makes sense. I wish they would just come out and say what they're trying to say.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And we have Lenovo also announcing these new PCs and stuff that run
Right, and
on.
And the software, obviously, Lenovo is going to say what they're allowed to say. They're not going to say, "Hey, it runs Light OS" when Microsoft has not announced it yet.
Yeah, of course. I just don't get why they're taking so long. And if they don't want to reveal it yet, then just don't talk about it. Why do they have to do this half? If they have these half reveals for everything,
That's what's
it's
so wild, though, is because like they were supposed to reveal this at Build, and it's almost like something went wrong. It got pulled from the deck at the last minute, and I know for a fact that something changed before Build, and it wasn't long before Build. And we talked about this too, how people kind of got the call. Don't expect to hear about lighted build, and something changed, and then they had to have something for Computex, and so they kind of came up with this half-assed message that they put in there.
all of their messages are like that. It's just they're terrible at this.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of bad messaging, we have Windows 10 Home Ultra as well. Speaking of new versions of Windows 10 Home Ultra. So Dell announced the XPS 13 2-in-1, which we will talk more about because it has Intel's 10th gen processors. And in the spec sheet, I noticed that it comes with a choice of Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Home Ultra.
Well,
So, what is Windows 10 Home Ultra?
that is a fantastic question.
It well, I mean, this kind of stuff has been floating around for about a year. Thurrott had the story about Windows 10 Home Advanced a while ago. So this stuff keeps popping up. Microsoft did give us a statement, which was also really weird because they actually said there is no new version of Windows called Windows 10 Home Ultra, and they never
What?
do that. They never do that.
What the heck? That is the
And
weirdest response.
it was a clear response,
That's true. That's why
and
it's
what
weird, because it's Microsoft.
that's exactly why it's weird though. And I was talking to somebody about it, and I said that if this was just nothing, they would have said we don't comment on rumors because that's how PR operates. They don't comment on rumors, and the fact that they said this is not a thing is almost more suspicious than if they said no comment. It's
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's Microsoft's so strange with it. I bet it's like a play on words. Like it's not a new version; it's a new something something. Just like
it could
using the
be
word
or it
version.
right. It could be called something different. It could be called Windows 10 Home Advanced. Could be called Windows 10 Home Ultimate, like Vista.
Yeah.
But it could be anything. I think that the product makes a lot of sense. Um, Paul Thurrott was talking on Windows Weekly about how Windows 10 Home and Pro. It's not that one is better than the other. They're aimed at two separate markets, and I don't agree with that because there are parts of Pro, there are things like joining domains and all kinds of stuff, group policies where no consumer has any need for that kind of stuff. But there are also things where you do, such as Hyper-V is my biggest one, but also BitLocker and stuff like that. So you could spend $3,000 on a gaming PC with an octa-core um, uh, ninth gen CPU with 16 threads and an RTX 2080 graphics, and you still got to pay an extra $100 to run Hyper-V. To if you want to use an emulator for Visual Studio, it's still an extra $100 because you have to upgrade to Pro.
No, that's a valid point. I actually was more on the other end of the spectrum, whereas I feel like we're getting too many SKUs for Windows
Oh,
10.
absolutely. That
It
too.
just, that's because Windows 10 was supposed to be this it was supposed to change everything. We went from like 7 or 8 SKUs in Windows 8, and we just reduced it to just a few with
There was
Windows 10, and
supposed to
now
be just one. There was supposed to be one Windows 10. Do you remember those days? Speaking of talking about the things that they promised when they first announced Windows 10, right?
I don't know if I remember. I was around for that, but I don't remember everything.
They
But we had
basically promised everything. They promised one Windows 10, seamless updates. It was going to be the perfect operating system, and it's basically what Windows Core OS is now. uh, they 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 promised one OS for different screen sizes. I was shocked the day I learned that Windows 10 Mobile is not the same as Windows 10, which was obviously very early on. But
yeah, that
yeah,
was kind of disappointing.
we
They
had seven
tried. They
SKUs in the
tried.
beginning. They did try, but I guess it took too much work to get it out in 2015. But yeah, we had seven SKUs in the beginning. It was Home Pro, Enterprise Education, Mobile, IoT, and one more. I can't think of it.
Uh, uh,
I know there were seven. I don't think it was Xbox, but it might be Xbox because
was
obviously
it?
Xbox is the version Windows 10.
Oh,
Hmm?
wasn't it the one for the Surface Hub or something? The Windows 10. What
Not at
is
the
it?
time. I don't.
Teams?
Yeah,
No, no.
Windows 10 Team is what it's called. There was it might have been it might have been Mobile Enterprise was the seventh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that
Yeah,
was
that
the
was.
thing. But yeah, I agree with you. There's too many SKUs. I'm of the belief that there should just be one version of Windows 10, at least for PCs, and or at least for consumers, where you can just add on components. I just think it's insane though that you could spend so much on a PC and you can't because gaming PCs aren't just for gamers. You know what I mean? That it's you need that kind of GPU power. You might be using it to edit video. You might be using it for software development, and you really should have the tools that you need for these things.
Yeah, that's. But I thought laptops at that point, I mean, always came with Windows 10 Pro. I didn't think they.
They do not. Uh, if you get something with a lot of power like that, and you want Windows 10 Pro out of the box, you get like a mobile workstation. All of Lenovo's ThinkPads come with Windows 10 Pro, but pretty much all gaming PCs come with Windows 10 Home right up to the top of the lineup.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
It's really sad. It's just it seems like a broken system. Um, and I understand not shipping Pro because Pro has a lot of features that those people still don't need, but there are also features that you do need. like Hyper-V.
Yeah, Hyper-V would be super nice. And Windows Sandbox, I talked about how much I would have liked to have access to that now that it's out of 1903, and I can't because I have Windows 10 Home.
Yeah, Windows Sandbox is another one. You should
Because
sign up
that's
for Project Olympia, though. You know about
it's
Project Olympia?
Olympia. I remember the name.
Yeah, it's the enterprise. It's pretty much Windows Insider program for business, and they give you
Oh,
they give you a business account, and you pretty much get to use Windows 10 Enterprise.
oh, that's
So
interesting. So,
yeah, you'd get Windows Sandbox is my point. Um,
oh, that's one way to do it. There's too much trouble for that feature. I
yeah,
think
but
it should
go
just
ahead.
be part of Windows 10 Home. It should need a new SKU for that. That's my opinion. Just
Right, right. They really yeah. I mean, at the same time, that there's some Windows 10 Home PCs that I mean, I understand wanting more money for more features. I understand Microsoft wanting to upsell, um, and if you're not going to give Windows 10 Pro to a gaming PC that costs $3,000, you don't. It doesn't make any sense to give that PC the same operating system as a $250 Intel Celeron um, netbook. We'll say, even though the word netbook isn't really used anymore.
yeah, that's very 2000 what 9
Yeah,
ish.
yeah. But they're still netbooks. They just don't call them that anymore, right? I think it was only about a year and a half ago. I reviewed this 11-inch convertible, had like 2 gigs of RAM, and I mean I couldn't use it, but these things exist is my point. And why would that PC get the same software as a very high end PC?
Yeah, that's true. Uh, I guess the whole mantra could make sense. I'm just afraid that it creates more confusion. That's the
Right,
thing,
right. I understand. Maybe they upsell features instead of different SKUs. But you're right. We don't need so many SKUs. I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Microsoft in general.
While we're on the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1, because the next story is Intel announces the 10th gen 10 nanometer Ice Lake CPUs. So Intel announced this at Computex, and that's pretty much it.
We're skipping over ninth gen, which is something everyone seems to do. Microsoft did it with Windows, Apple did it with the iPhone,
Yep.
and now Intel is doing it. So,
It's so weird. It's particularly weird because they did come out with 2 generations of 8th gen processors, which was Kaby Lake R and Whiskey Lake. So now they just did 2 8th gens and then a 10th gen. So
makes
for those,
perfect sense.
by the way, for those that don't know, they do have 9th gen CPUs. They're just H series and desktop and probably a couple others. But as far as ultrabook processors go, they're going right to 10th gen for some reason. Probably because it's 10 nanometers.
Yeah, I guess they just wanted to align that. They just wanted that to
Yeah.
be cute. So,
So so these things all Intel said was that they have a 4.1 gigahertz max turbo frequency in the CPU, one up to 1.1 gigahertz graphics, Gen 11 graphics. They're all Iris Plus, and they said the graphics have double the performance of the previous generation. And Thunderbolt 3 is built into the SoC, and it has
that should be good news for
that
people.
is good news because they promised this so long ago.
I have never I don't think I've ever owned a device with my laptop. I don't know if my laptop has Thunderbolt 3 actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have. I'd say mostly for docking. I mean, also if you're the type that wants to, because you could use one Thunderbolt 3 port to plug in 2 4K displays or 1 5K displays. There's a lot there. I can't say that I ever make the most of it, but if you do 40 gigabits per second data transfer, um, it's just
Oh,
nice
but
that they're finally building it into the chip. Is all.
yeah, that is very nice. And also Wi-Fi 6 is also built in, so that's cool.
Yeah, but they had that for Whiskey Lake.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so but they're I guess calling it out again. So the reason that we're still on the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1 though is because while that's all that Intel said, Dell's spec sheet once again let out some more details. There are.
Dell is not very good at keeping secrets. I see.
It's interesting. I got in touch with Intel. I had a Computex that talk about these chips, and they, I told them because HP's announcements, they just said next gen CPUs, and Dell's announcements. I went to Dell's briefing. There's a big sign that says 10th generation Intel processors, and I guess that they did this stuff in partnership with Intel. So they had, I think, more information than its competitors had. So they listed 3 CPU SKUs, which is the Core i3 1005 G1, 8 megabyte cache up to 3.4 gigahertz, quad Core i5 1035 G1, 6 megabyte cache up to 3.7 gigahertz, Core i7 1065 G7, up to 3.9 gigahertz. So, and they also said that the TDP for the new CPUs is 15 watts. So none of this stuff was announced by, or someone told me that Intel said that they'll have 9-watt, 15-watt, and 28-watt CPUs, but Intel wouldn't tell me any of this. So
of course.
Yeah, so I mean, 15-watt. That's the successor to the U series, which is what we've always seen in ultrabooks and convertibles. But it looks like if these SKUs are accurate, they're not calling it U anymore. They're using G1 and G7. I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, that's weird. Why is it's G1 for both the i3 and the i5, but then the i7 is G7.
Yeah, usually the cache gets larger as you get towards the i7.
I was about to mention that too. Why? What's up with that?
Yeah, it's strange. And and when I wrote up the XPS 13 2-in-1, I just said this is what's in the spec sheet because who knows? The same thing with Windows 10 Home Ultra. This stuff showed up in a spec sheet. I was surprised that Home Ultra even got the attention that it did because it's just spec sheets don't always come to life in the way they're written. So Intel's going to have more information on these chips as time goes on because these chips aren't coming until holiday season.
Yeah, so we still have some time to wait. I wish Intel would have taken the opportunity to simplify their naming schemes for this stuff. I don't think it's any easier than it was before.
I'm very familiar with Intel's naming schemes these days mainly because I write about this stuff.
Yeah,
they do have a page where they define all this stuff. It's just the 8th gen was very confusing because the 8th gen was what? It was Kaby Lake R. There was Coffee Lake, Whiskey Lake, Amber Lake. There might have even been more than that, but I think that's it. Which is just weird. It's
too much.
7th gen was just Kaby Lake. 6th gen was Sky Lake. It was very simple. And then 8th gen, they just started throwing everything in there, probably because they had Ice Lake coming.
Yeah, it's weird. I've always had a hard time keeping up with Intel's names.
Yeah. Well, I mean, U series is the 15-watt chip that we see in ultrabooks and convertibles. Y series. What?
It's like mine. I'm starting to catch on a little bit now. So mine is U series too.
U series is common. It stands for, I believe, ultra low power. And then Y series is extremely low power. That's for fanless devices. It was 5 watts with Amber Lake, and then the previous generation was 4.5 watts. They're not very good. And then
I thought it was 7.5. Okay.
No, but Apple's MacBook Air had a special Y series processor that was 7 watts, but
okay.
The regular ones that everyone else is using is 5 watts. And then and then you got 8 series. That's the 45-watt SKU that's in gaming laptops and such. It's high power graphics or something. And then you got the desktop chips. That's 65-watt, 95-watt for the unlocked K series. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very simple. I don't know why you don't get this.
Yeah, it's my fault, clearly.
Clearly. Nvidia announced the Quadro RTX GPUs for mobile, finally.
You were waiting for this, though. Now you can finally review these.
It was just very strange reviewing mobile workstation laptops, and because they still had Quadro graphics, and it was just, we don't always know what's coming with the next generation of CPUs or GPUs. With like a year and a half ago, if you reviewed a gaming laptop with a GTX 1080, like, this is great. The next generation of graphics will probably be better, faster, whatever. We didn't know ray tracing and DLSS was what they were planning and all that. But when
Yeah,
I
but now
reviewed,
you know.
yeah, exactly. So when I reviewed the ThinkPad P72, it's like, okay, GeForce RTX is out for desktops and laptops. Quadro RTX is out for desktop workstations. So clearly, there's a big jump coming, and this is a $7,000 laptop, so you might want to wait before spending that money.
Yeah, it's pretty weird of computer makers to release stuff with those cards, knowing that the new ones are so close by. But I guess they were releasing that to have new Intel processors, probably. So
Yeah.
they just had to be there for every release cycle from both
Right,
sides.
and then they'll refresh for the Quadro RTX, and then they'll refresh for the next Intel processors. But it was just a tricky thing to review, knowing what kind of performance jump is coming. So RTX 3000, 4000, and 5000 with 6 GB, 8 GB, and 16 GB GDR6. Um,
Oh
what
wow,
else? They announced some lower end um, GPU, the non RTX ones, which is T2000, T1000, P520, and P620. So yeah, those have GDDR5.
more confusing names. What? What's the
Yeah,
difference between P and T? I'm not sure.
I have no idea. It's also like with GeForce, they did the RTX 2060, 2070, and 2080, and then you have the GTX 1650 and 1660. Like, where do they even come up with these numbers?
This makes no sense. I don't get it.
Yeah,
Tech companies are so bad at names. Like
they
almost
are.
all of them.
You have to wonder how much this affects consumers. Does the consumer that buys a laptop really know that, like, they don't know the difference between U series and 8 series and Y series? They just see Core i5. Um, do they know? I mean, I guess someone who's buying a gaming laptop knows the difference between GTX and RTX.
Yeah, if you're into gaming, you have some knowledge, but
Yeah.
the, yeah, no one's gonna know what any of this means. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. Does the poor naming schemes really affect it? Like, because it's up to us to sort it out, and I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we're just weird. I don't know. Maybe normal people don't care,
Yeah.
and they're just picky.
Let's move on to Qualcomm, which
Oh no,
Qualcomm and
that's
Lenovo.
exciting. Yeah.
Yes, that's the first 5G
Uh,
Windows 10 PC.
for next year, I believe. Yeah, 2020.
Yes. Well, yeah, sort of. It's a, so it's just called Project Limitless right now. Looks exactly like Yoga C630 from the images shown. It's got the speakers on the sides of the keyboard, but the big story is that it has the Snapdragon 8CX 5G platform.
And we still haven't even seen HCX without 5G in the real world. So
Yeah,
that's
they promised late 2019 for that, and they're still on track. Those should be announced at IFA in August, and they hopefully shipping in time for back to school.
oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, yeah. So the HCX is supposed to compete with an Intel Core i5 U series or whatever the hell they're calling it now. So that's going to be cool to see. I hope that by the time these things ship, that Edge Chromium Cregium is shipping by then because emulated browsers are never going to be very good on these machines. They need native browsers.
But in their comparison videos, you have another post about that. They were running an emulated Firefox, and it's still faster than the Intel one. I
Wait, was
believe
it an
Firefox.
emulated Firefox? Because
I
Firefox is native now.
yeah, I thought it was. I thought I read somewhere that it is actually an emulated version of it, but I guess not because it's a developer version, so it's probably already.
Yeah, I mean, they were showing me, native Chromium and native Firefox back in like October or November. I have to think that Chromium's coming along, but and you still can't get a native build of Chromium for ARM. The issue with browsers is that it's generating code as you're running it, so they can't cache the code um, and to emulate. So regular apps tend to be fine through emulation, but browsers are not.
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. Hopefully, I would assume so that would be ready because this is a big bet on their part. So
Yeah,
they would want it to be ready.
yeah. Well, I mean, they announced Chromium in December at the same event where they announced the HCX. So hopefully they're working closely with these guys for that. So the Lenovo Project Limitless, it's got the Snapdragon X55 5G modem. Um, they said so with the X55, you don't need another 4G LTE modem. Like with the X50 5G devices that we have today, they also have a X24 LTE modem. X55 just does both. So download speeds for 2.5 gigabit per second LTE, and I think it's 6 gigabit per second 5G. So it should be pretty cool. Hopefully 5G rolls out by then.
We're still waiting. I mean, technically it's available in some places, but I don't see it going
Yeah.
very far right now.
Yeah, right now in the US, Verizon's got it in Chicago and Minneapolis. Sprint just announced it for, I think, 4 cities like Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Kansas City. So um, hopefully they move quickly. I just want it where I live.
Exactly. That's what we all want.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It can make everyone happy.
Yeah, I might
But
actually end up going to Chicago to check it out.
yeah, what else sucks about it is that it's only millimeter wave right now, right? They're not really. Do they
Not
have
from
any
Sprint.
other spectrum? Oh, they
Uh,
have
s-
other spectrums?
well, no, Sprint's only doing one, but they're doing sub 6. It's
Oh,
yeah, they announced it this week. So what's cool about that is that you'll actually get 5G indoors.
exactly, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. No, if it's just millimeter wave, then even where it is available, it's not really available unless you're outside.
Right, and you need a clear line of sight.
Exactly. So
So Snapdragon 8CX. Oh, by the way, one other thing they told me because I asked them if the 8CX is still coming. They said still back to school, but they also said that there should be a 5G PC by December, even though Lenovo's is still coming in 2020. So while this is the first one announced, it doesn't seem like it's going to be the first one to ship.
that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I just hope we get a wide range of ARM devices this year because
I
we
re
haven't.
Yeah, I really hope so too. To me, maybe I'm just weird. It's just one of the most exciting things in traditional computing we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Just
Well, what's exciting about it to you? Tell
I
me.
uh, just the idea. Well, almost everything. The first, the integrated cellular connectivity is very nice. So
Yeah,
in with Intel processors, that comes at a cost usually because it's
I
not
hate that.
included.
Yeah, I want everything that I want everything with a CPU that I have to just automatically connect to the internet all the time. It's 2019. Why is that so hard?
Exactly.
You
Yeah, I
know?
mean, it's
Um,
time. It's about time. And then
yeah.
it's even the 15-watt design. I think is fanless, right? This one, the ATX is still fanless, which we don't get in 15-watt chips from Intel.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah,
There,
so
there are a
that's
couple fanless laptops that have U series processors.
uh,
The Surface Pro 5 was one of them with the if you got the Core i5 model.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, I think Huawei pulled it off once too. It's yeah, it's pretty cool, but I mean,
But they
I
could move throttle a lot then
one
probably
thing
won't.
that's great about these PCs is that we talked about Project Athena and Intel PCs being able to wake in a second. You actually get that with the
Yeah,
Snapdragon
there's it,
PCs.
yeah, there's that too. I was gonna mention it's there's a lot of advantages to it. It's just more
Yeah.
practical. They're
You don't
lighter
you don't
because
see the advantage of instant wake until you have it. Uh, I can't tell you how many times I've tried to wake up a laptop and then the screen is just blank for maybe 5 seconds. And then I go to press the power button again because I think it didn't take or something. And then right before I press the button, the screen comes on, and then I actually turn it off, and then I have to go through it all over again. It's very frustrating.
yeah, and you say it like that 5 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're just staring at it and waiting for it, it's an eternity.
Yeah, what I'm most excited about though is just it's Windows on a new architecture. We haven't seen that in decades. you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's just the concept by itself is very exciting. That's
Yeah, yeah, and I want to see it work. I want to see Intel get some real competition. The problem with Edge with we talked about Chromium running native on ARM. Obviously, Microsoft wants this to happen, but at the same time, how many people own Snapdragon PCs right now? It's very, very few. Very
yeah,
few.
yeah, they're not even that many owned in the first place, and the ones
Yeah,
that are there are terrible.
there are six that exist. There were three Snapdragon 835 PCs, and now there are three Snapdragon 850 PCs, and well, plus the HoloLens too. And yeah, I don't know. The Snapdragon 850 is not terrible. It's better if you have a native browser. But who bought these things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where they're available. I remember we talked about this, and I looked it up in European websites all over in a few countries in Europe, not just Portugal, and they just don't seem to exist anywhere. I think the UK may have had them, but aside from that, Germany, France, I couldn't find any ARM PCs anywhere.
That's interesting. Yeah, it saddens me. I just hope we start seeing a lot more of them because if we don't see a wide range of devices, it's never gonna take off.
Yeah, it's never gonna matter that way.
But it's also like Dell hasn't done one at all. We've seen HP, Lenovo, Asus, and Huawei did one, which is
And
weird.
Samsung, right? The Galaxy
Oh, and
Book 2.
Samsung has one too. Yeah, which Samsung's is beautiful because they use the Super AMOLED display on the tablet. I just wish they used 8 gigs of RAM, but it's a stunning device.
I
All it
wouldn't
needs is a
know.
native browser. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, because you don't live in a real place.
Freaking Portugal, man.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see because Computex is IFA is at the end of August. So hopefully we'll see a bunch. I really hope it's not just one device or two devices. Um, Hopefully it takes off.
Yeah, and I hope we see more 850 devices for lower prices too, because I think that's an important segment as well. If it,
Yeah, yeah, and they did promise that they promised that it's going to continue to be produced in the mid range. Huawei just came out with a new MateBook E with a Snapdragon 850 a couple months ago, so that's happening. Although you can only buy it in China, as far as I know, and probably as long as they have stock.
that yeah, at this point it's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. Hopefully that gets resolved soon. We talked a whole lot about that last week. Um, but yeah, 850 devices will be really nice because they need the ecosystem. They can't just sell premium. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I probably wouldn't buy an ECX one because I don't have money for that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
I would love to try an 850 one
I don't buy laptops at all. Do you know why?
because I just get them.
Because it's a tough decision for me because anytime I want something for myself, I have to weigh the cost versus how much I'll actually be able to use it. So if I buy a laptop right now, um, I'd probably spend about $2,500 getting the parts that I want, and then I'd never be able to use it because I always have a device that I'm reviewing. So there's
Yeah,
no point spending money.
yeah, that's kind of a. I mean, it's hard to say that it's a sucky situation because you
No,
get
no, it's a great
but
situation. I get to play
but
with
yeah,
all the latest gadgets.
exactly. But yeah, I understand your dilemma there.
Yeah. So you got a whole bunch of hardware at
Of course.
Computex. Dell announced a new XPS 15 as well. It's got 19 processors and an OLED screen. Alienware M15 and M17. These things are pretty cool. Did you look at these?
I'm looking at them right now. You mean the Alienware?
Yeah, yeah. They had the Area 51M a while back, and that thing actually has desktop processor in it. It has a desktop Core i9.
Overclockable, and it's
Yes,
overclockable.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's a beast. So they had to do some innovative things with cooling on that machine to get it to work. And what they realized was that they've done all these things to get a desktop processor to work. What if they do that same cooling design on a regular machine with a 45 watt 8 series processor? So you get a big boost in performance from that.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
been pretty interesting. And MSI also announced laptop. Now that's true. I'm looking at this right now. And I remember that MSI also announced laptops, and it seems kind of the same. They also have that one now with GPU parts that
yeah,
overclockable.
yeah,
I was also fascinated by that one because the whole bottom of the laptop is a grill. It just doesn't have
yeah.
any solid part. So airflow there must be pretty nice.
Um, all right. Dell also had some new Inspirons, some new precision workstations with the Quadro RTX graphics that we discussed. We have some wood laptops from HP because why not?
But I actually love the look of wood. Maybe I'm weird.
It
I think
does.
it
It looks
looks
awesome.
yeah. And HP has been doing this a lot. They had the leather one, and now they have wood,
Right.
and it looks awesome. I don't even like HP that much, but their laptops do look really cool.
Yeah, I think it's a I like that HP cares about design. Um, like the new Spectre X360 is probably the most beautiful PC on the market. Spectre Folio is um, leather, and so
Exactly.
it's something a little different. Now we have wood, and really breaking away from that MacBook clone that PC makers kind of love to do. Um, so something original, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, even the trackpad has that wood texture. That's
Yeah, I don't know. Is it actually wood? Is it the trackpad? Because would a wood trackpad work? Is that possible? I,
I mean that's a great question. I mean, if plastic works, is
yeah,
plastic more conductive than wood? I don't know
I
actually.
don't think wood is very conductive. I don't know. These things are coming out in the fall. They're also using 10th gen Ice Lake processors. So I'll find out more. Hopefully, I'll get one to review because obviously I want one because it's wood. You know.
Yeah.
Um, HBO also announced some new Elite books, which that's pretty exciting because Elite books are awesome. Um, I
Uh,
reviewed I reviewed the 1040. I said it might be the best convertible on the market. It's just incredible. So
I'm not familiar with them. I have to be honest.
these are our commercial. The Elite is the commercial brand for HP. It's
Oh,
so Elite books are laptops, and 1030 is 13-inch, 1040 is 14-inch, 1050 is 15-inch, etc. X360 means it's convertible. Obviously, it's very it for confusing branding. At least it's consistent. And
that's
yeah, 1,000 series is the premium lineup. 800 series is mainstream. So they announced new 1030 and 1040 convertibles, and um, the things that are new. Not that much. They have SureView Gen 3. SureView is HP's privacy display, where you basically press a button on the keyboard and then you can't see, like, people won't be able to look over your shoulder and see what you're working on. And one thing that disappointed me is that Gen 3 was supposed to support 4K displays, and they didn't announce a 4K SureView SKU with this. So that's a bummer.
Myers.
Yeah, no, it was SureView is a great feature. If you write embargoed articles.
Oh yeah,
So the idea that people can't look over your shoulder and see what you're doing. And so they announced Gen 3 at CES, and one thing that's really different about it is that instead of the screen looking white if you're looking from an angle, it now looks dark. And they also announced that it would finally support 4K displays. So you wouldn't have to choose between a high resolution and this privacy feature. But I guess it's not there yet. Also, Whiskey Lake vPro CPUs. That's another thing that's new because the last gen was Kaby Lake R vPro because Intel only announced these CPUs in April. Gigabit 4G LTE optional, Wi-Fi 6, and they have the premium collaboration keyboard, which is one of the best keyboards on the market. It's the first keyboard I've ever used that I would say competes with Lenovo's ThinkPads. It's incredible.
I'm not good at evaluating keyboards. I don't use enough PCs to.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When you write enough reviews, keyboards are pretty much the only thing that matters because you type for a living, you know? So when you start using bad keyboards, you start to really appreciate the good ones. So yeah, they also had some ZBooks, which is the workstations, and of course Quadro RTX graphics. And we also had some dual screen laptops, which are pretty interesting.
I thought
Go ahead.
I thought they were interesting. I don't know because you're the one of us that understands more about productivity. I just think it looks pretty cool.
It
I'm a
does.
little I'm a little worried that it's not useful, but it could be. I could see how it could be useful.
You know, looking at some of the screenshots on the Asus, I like some of the features that they're promoting. Like it's almost like a huge touch bar like Apple
Yeah,
has.
yeah, just a glorified touch bar.
Yeah, but it seems like you do a little more
Yeah,
because you know that guy's scrubbing through what is that, a video that he's
yeah,
editing
it
or
looks
something
like
like
it's
that,
editing or something. Yeah,
or maybe some kind of other modeling software. But he's scrubbing through it on a screen that's above the keyboard rather than having that take up valuable screen real estate. So that could be useful.
yeah, I can see that. I don't know much myself, but it just looks like it could be useful.
Yeah, yeah. Remember HP had a new Omen with a dual screen. It had like a 6-inch panel above the keyboard, and it was basically just a second screen. So you know, these things obviously they have to come to market. They kind of have to prove their value, like anything else. So that'll be interesting. I think apps are going to have to support it, obviously. So if they hopefully they could get Adobe on board. And
Yeah, for stuff like that, for the scrubbing, I think they have to design for this, but
yeah,
it's also just a second screen. It acts like a secondary display for Windows 10, so you can just drag Windows to it if you want.
yeah, yeah. I
So
wonder. You know, I see one guy has got a chat app open on the right side of it. That could be useful. I mean, so like I can only speak from my personal experience, my personal workflow. You know, I would love to have that screen down there and put you know, Skype and Slack down there. You know?
yeah, that's one possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
An example I saw a reference is like you're writing a text on the big screen, and you're looking at the small screen for reference, like you have a source or a guide or something
Yeah.
on one screen, and you're writing on the
Yeah,
other.
definitely.
stuff
Which
like
is
that.
pretty much what I use a second monitor for now. I mean, I have my main monitor, and then to the left I have OneNote, Skype, Slack, just basically stuff I might have to refer to.
Exactly.
So
So it's
that
one
could
of
be useful
those.
for a
Yeah,
laptop. Yeah.
yeah, and that's still 4K. It's pretty crazy that they're putting a
Yeah.
4K screen
Yeah.
there.
All right, let's talk about Xbox Game Pass. We're wrapping it up with the big one. Um,
So,
Xbox Game Pass is all right. The simple stuff is that they announced that Xbox Game Pass is coming to Windows 10 with a new PC SKU. So not much is known how much it'll cost for Xbox Game Pass for PC. Some people are now speculating that it's going to be included with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, but they have a bunch of partners on board, which will be nice because I mean you could already play a bunch of Game Pass games on PC like Forza Horizon 4, Cuphead, Gears of War 4, anything that's Xbox Play Anywhere and supports Game Pass is already available on PC. So hopefully we get a bunch of cool new PC games. And then we
yeah,
got go ahead.
I was actually under the impression that Xbox Game Pass already worked on the PC because stuff like Forza Horizon and all that
Right.
already worked. So I thought it was already universal.
Well, I think this is about creating a separate library of PC games uh, for Game Pass because I mean it's
There's a lot
there's
of
only a
titles on
few
PC.
games. What?
Yeah, because there's
Yeah,
a lot of titles on PC that are not Xbox Play Anywhere, or that they may not even
right,
be on Xbox,
right.
anyways.
So they'll have more on this at E3. The more interesting thing is that they're bringing Win32 games into the Microsoft Store, and Tom Warren from The
UWP is
Verge
dead.
wrote a piece about how UWP is dead, and it's the latest. I tweeted out that UWP is dead as the new Windows Phone is dead, meaning it's the thing where every week there's just another article about why UWP is dead. But
And then there's always people defending it.
yes,
It's all
like
the
you.
same. Okay, that kind of. Okay.
But here's the thing though. I mean, I've noticed for at least a year now because I go to Microsoft Build every year, which is their developer conference, and their focus has definitely changed in what they've been talking about. It used to be here's what's new with UWP, developing UWP, here's how you can convert your Win32 app to UWP, and they don't talk like that anymore. It
It's all
eventually turned into how you can um,
it's just Windows
bring.
apps now.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the thing we talked about after build, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was the last UWP is dead thing.
Yeah,
But
I
they don't
get
talk
it.
about UWP anymore. They really don't. They talk about XAML Islands and bringing UWP features to Win32 apps, but Win32 came to Windows Mixed Reality a few months ago, and it's I don't see. It seems like the promise of UWP was one app for all Windows devices. Remember that?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah, and now it seems like they're just doing that with Win32 instead.
In a way, yes. If Win32 is now on mixed reality, so that there's that.
It's on mixed, yeah. And I mean, Win32 apps have been coming to the store ever since they announced Windows 10. That never changed. They called it Project Centennial. Um, they promised it in one of the first Windows 10 events, although it didn't ship till the anniversary update in 2016. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me why UWP is alive.
Well, okay, so that's I think it's a hard argument to make because I obviously the dream, the way Microsoft envisioned it is gone. That's the way they wanted it to be is not the way they want it to be anymore. And I agree. In that sense, it's that their investment, the way they were going about it, that's all different now. They don't care about it the same way.
Right.
But I saw the discussion that spawned from your tweets, and Brad Sams also had tweets about that, and people were discussing that a lot. you could say UWP is dead just as much, almost as much as you could say Win32 is dead if you're implementing UWP features in Win32 apps that displace previous Win32 features. You're kind of bringing them together, and it's stuff that used to be UWP. It's not the UWP anymore, but in
Right.
my eyes, it's still UWP because that's where it was born. And
This
so,
it just reminds me of the Windows 10 is the Windows Phone is dead discussion so much. Like the writing was on the wall for Windows Phone since like early 2015. I would say remember they announced the Lumia 830 in late 2014 at IFA, and they called it an affordable flagship. And in early 2015, I remember seeing people walking around with that thing as if it was a flagship phone because there was no new actual flagship and thinking there's something wrong here. And we clung to this belief that no, Microsoft has a plan. Don't worry, it's coming. And then Windows 10. Oh, but when Windows 10 comes, they're gonna have a real flagship. And then and then Windows 10 came, and they did these kind of crappy. I'm just gonna say crappy. Lumia 950 and not bland would probably be the better word. And then they said there's more features coming. It's like okay, there's gonna be third party devices. HP's got this super phone, and then that came. It wasn't very good. And then there were no more phones. And then we got feature two, and don't worry, but after feature two, they're gonna bring back Redstone 4. And it's like remember how long we clung to this? And it's like the writing is kind of on the wall for UWP in the same way. And the fact that Microsoft never communicated with us with Windows Phone is one of those reasons why we're going to speculate that it's dead either way, even as much as Microsoft tells us, no, it's alive and well, because they did the same thing already.
yeah, we can't trust them. That's true. So,
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and when you have a company that doesn't communicate well, and things I guess things did change with Windows 10 Mobile over time, but they don't communicate well, and they have this history of telling you no, nothing to see here when there's totally something to see there. Um, People are gonna speculate these kinds of things.
yeah, that's true. And they're probably right in. I feel like, yeah, like I said, the dream, the way it was, is dead. That's for sure. That's clearly not what they're trying to do anymore.
Yeah, the dream was a weird one, but
Yeah,
it's dead. It was a
that's
weird one.
true.
I remember thinking to myself, because I remember when Windows 10 launched. I remember this vividly because I remember they had a launch party in New York City, and I remember this guy telling me that we're going to be on 1 billion devices, and even Google won't be able to ignore us anymore. Because remember at the time the big thing was that Google apps run on Windows phones, and I remember thinking to myself like this guy's crazy. That there's no way that's realistic. Even if Windows 10 is on 1 billion devices, which was the plan at the time, um, there's no way that it's just going to mean Google's going to make apps because people use browsers on PCs and most people are fine going to gmail.com. So um, I always thought that UWP was supposed to be a long-term play because it didn't make any sense to develop a UWP app in 2015 because one, you can make a Windows 8 app and suddenly now you're not only available for Windows 10, you're available for the millions of Windows 8 users as well. Or you can make a Win32 app and you're available for all supported versions of Windows. And so I thought like, okay, they're planning on this being a big thing in 2023 when Windows 8.1 support ends, or even 2020 when Windows 7 support ends. And turns out they weren't willing to nurture it for that long, which is a very Microsoft thing to do.
But I mean, they're still kind of nurturing in their own apps, and I think that's part of the reason we believe it's not that. I mean, OneNote is a fantastic app, the Windows 10 OneNote app, and that's
Yeah, it
UWP.
is. It is,
Uh,
and
your
that's the only one.
phone,
Your phone,
that's true.
yeah.
I
I mean,
mean, your
also
phone.
the new Windows Terminal app too, right? Um,
Oh, I
I
don't know
guess
if that's
you could
UWP
say
actually.
what I think it is. But they're new apps but they never rebuilt most of their first party desktop apps at UWP like the rest of Office. They have those Office mobile apps, but that's it.
Yeah, and they're currently taking a while to do that. So yeah, there are arguments to be made, of course, for its death. But one note is
Death is a strong word. You're right.
yeah,
But it feels like as far as the platform itself goes, I don't feel like they're nurturing it. I really thought for a long time that this was supposed to be a long-term plan, and it turns out it wasn't. Like anything else with Microsoft, if it's not successful within a year, it's not worth doing. And like there's a lot of parallels to draw with Windows Phone here.
yeah,
But
there are. I mean, I know there's a lot of parallels. When you send that tweet about it, UWP is that being the new Windows Phone is that my first response, even though then I defended UWP, I said, so it's true, right? Because it ended up being true for Windows Phone. For years, people defended it, and then of course, yeah, we ended up where we ended up. So
yeah, yeah.
but I don't know. I'm just I just think it's a transition to a less restrictive approach. So now you're not forced to sacrifice Win32 features to use UWP and the other way around. So everything's just coming together.
Yeah,
Uh,
Windows apps like Mary Jo's story a couple weeks ago, and that makes a lot of sense. Um,
and
yeah,
maybe,
that is a
uh,
strong word.
yeah, I just think Microsoft will probably continue to invest in the UWP in their own apps, and then maybe people will start realizing its value. They will start adopting it, but slowly. So you're not forcing anyone to do it, and maybe in the long term that works out better. I don't know.
Yeah,
Microsoft probably doesn't know because
I don't. Yeah, yeah. I think we have a Win32 future though. I think that's just. Yeah, I think getting everybody to rebuild all of their Windows 10 apps was always going to be a huge task, and I think they overestimated the power of the distribution platform, which is the Microsoft Store.
yeah, that's what they're giving up on, and I think that is a
Yeah,
good thing. They're clearly giving up on that push.
yeah, yeah. All right, I think that's all we got. Next week we got WWDC, so there's going to be a lot of Apple talk.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. I love WWDC. I enjoy it because I get to install all the new beta software right after the event, and it's
Just
but
just because it's a lot of new stuff to try.
it is, and Apple always has all of or most of the new features in that first beta build, so there's always a ton of new stuff to try out. Where like with Windows Insider previews, you get a couple new features every week. Sometimes there's a big bang release, but that's it. Um, you know, I'm not
Yeah,
even
it's
using an iPhone right now, but
uh,
it's I'll definitely install that stuff on day one because I always do, even though it's terrible. No one should do what I'm doing. It's
I'll do the same. I do it.
yeah. It's really bad, but I also have many phones if that's a problem. So that's it. I'm Rich. I'm at the Rich Woods on Twitter. Who are you on Twitter? And how do you spell it?
Uh, I'm glad you asked. So I'm João, of course. On Twitter, I'm at Indospot. That's INDOSPOT.
All right.
I don't think I've had any new followers since you started doing this, so I'm not sure I'm spelling it
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah, that must be the problem. All right, cool. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, see you guys.